Wait. Unless you want to sit back.
So now I push this thing.
You can go back.
People go up there now.
Start getting, yeah, what happens in the end if you have a fire truck accident or when your oxygen tank's full, then you don't have no money.
People go up now.
You want me? Yeah.
Can I go over there now?
Yeah.
Oh, we don't have a form.
Just take it back.
Just get in. Are we up here or what?
Yes, I do.
Oh, you don't sit.
Yep, sound it on.
I'm gonna leave this mic on.
You ready?
But you can turn your mics on.
Mics are on.
Unless you're ready to speak.
Mics are on?
Just remember when
Mics
you're
are
ready to
on.
speak.
So quit talking about the president.
We'll call the Planning Commission meeting for October 18th to order. First of all, we will have a roll call, please.
Angie Holt. Here. Frank Pulver.
Here.
Bill Van Wy.
Present.
Mike Watson.
Good evening.
Sandy Harrison. Here. Glenn Crawford. Jerry Yoder.
Here.
Suzanne Davis.
Here.
Jason Carnahan.
Here.
Don Myers. Here. Alicia Rogers.
Here.
Andrew Cruz.
Here.
Chris Gomer. Here. And Andrea's here.
This time we'll all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. We'll now have a moment for a prayer. If anyone on the board would like to volunteer.
Do it. Let's bow our heads. Father God, we just come to you tonight. We know in your word it says that where two or more are gathered, you will be here also. So we invite you in, Lord, to this meeting that we can rationalize and come together with a decision on this. We know it's your plan for this county to thrive, and we want to follow through with it. Let everybody in this room have peace and patience and grace when we're what we're about to decide on. In your name, amen.
In your packets, you should have all gotten the minutes from the October 3rd meeting. If there are any questions, comments, concerns, otherwise I'll take a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes for October 3rd.
Second.
A motion and second to approve the minutes. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. There is no claims to have consideration as we did that at the October 3rd meeting, so we will have more in November. Chris, any old business?
No, sir.
Okay. So tonight, we will hear an application for an amendment to the Commercial Solar Energy Systems Overlay District from Sculpin Solar LLC. This is a request for the properties to be included in the overlay district. This is not a development plan application. That will come later if approved at this step. It is important for everyone to understand that the proposed amendment will only apply to those properties in this application. It does not apply to any other solar project. The Plan Commission has not seen a development plan for this project, nor has one been submitted. The Plan Commission cannot hear comment on anything that would be related to a development plan, such as setbacks, panel locations, landscaping, wildlife corridors, etc. Would ask that we keep that in mind when speaking for or against the project. With that being said, this is a public hearing. The schedule for the hearing will be as follows. I will call for the petition, and Chris will give a presentation on the proposed CSES Overlay District Amendment. The applicant, Sculpin Solar, will have an opportunity to further explain their request to the Plan Commission. We will allow this to be 15 minutes. The Plan Commission will then discuss and ask questions of the applicant, and we will try to limit that to around 10 minutes. We will then begin a period of public comment. There will be a time limit given. A total of 40 minutes will be given for those to speak for and against the amendments, 20 each way. Each person has 3 minutes to speak. Chris and Alicia will manage the time. Each person must come to the podium, state their name and address, and speak clearly into the microphone, making sure that the blue light is on. Please try to refrain from any crosstalk in the audience, clapping, yelling, talking under your breath, whatever. Your comments must address the CSES overlay amendment as proposed in the petition. If your comments deviate from the proposed amendment, they will not be considered part of the hearing, and you'll be asked to stop. Again, we cannot hear any specifics of the development plan or development standards. And your comments must also be addressed to the Planning Commission and not towards each other. The possible actions from the Plan Commission could be favorable, unfavorable, or no recommendation to be given to the county commissioners on their meeting on October 30th. Finally, the Plan Commission will deliberate on the proposed amendment, and then a vote will be cast if a motion is granted or is generated by the board. So, Chris, we will hear petition 23-28.
Alrighty, petition 23-28 is Sculpin Solar LLC requesting an amendment to the Commercial Solar Energy Overlay District. The purpose of the amendment request is for the inclusion of properties in the CSES Overlay District per Article 3, Section 3.13, B1, A, and B of the DeKalb County Unified Development Ordinance. The underlying zoning districts will not be amended, and this is not a request for a development plan application. The properties are generally located south of County Road 34, west of County Road 39, north of County Road 75A, County Road 71, and east of State Road 1 in Butler. So as Jason alluded to, this is the first step to the Commercial Solar Energy Systems project. As all the Plan Commission should know, there are currently no acres, zero, that are part of this overlay district. For this amendment, the Plan Commission is required, as Jason said, to give a favorable, unfavorable, or no recommendation to the county commissioners. And the county commissioners will adopt or reject the proposal. That's one thing in the staff report. I had the Plan Commission recommendation. It is the proposal that even the commissioners will be reviewing. The Plan Commission is just giving a recommendation to the county commissioners. This is to amend approximately 1,778.8 acres to be included within the Commercial Solar Energy Systems Overlay District located in Stafford and Wilmington Townships, again, just southeast of Butler. It includes 45 parcels with 7 total landowners. The inclusion of these properties within the CSES Overlay District does not guarantee the project will be built. There has not been a development plan submitted. The project, through the development plan application review, will be required to meet the standards within the Unified Development Ordinance. Page 2 of your staff report just gives, I showed where this project is in view of the entire county. The yellow outlines, as you all should know, are the municipalities of Auburn, Garrett, Butler, Waterloo, Corona, St. Joe, Ashley, and Hamilton. The red outline is the Sculpin Solar proposed acreage to be included in the overlay district. Page 3, again, shows the Sculpin Solar project boundaries, and then the city of Butler located there as well. And then page 4 is the zoomed in aerial showing parcel locations for the proposed project. And and then the outline as well. Page 5 shows the existing zoning. A1 and A2 is the underlying zoning district here. Again, those zoning districts are not changing. This is an amendment request for the overlay district only. I included in the staff report, as I do for zone map amendments and other things, information that's part of the UDO. Obviously, this isn't everything that's within the UDO, but it's what I feel is important information for the Plan Commission. 1.14 are the purpose of the various zoning districts we have. Included there is the purpose of the A1 and A2 zoning district. 1.15 is the establishment of overlay districts and what we are allowed by our ordinance to do for overlay districts. And then what the intention is for the commercial solar energy systems overlay. With our overlay district, as you see there, overlay districts are established to add development standards, reduce development standards, add uses, reduce uses, or any combination of the above. 3.12 is the establishment of our commercial solar energy systems area, which is, again, part of the UDO, page 3.3-16 of the UDO. I won't read that verbatim, but some information there. Again, there are no commercial solar energy systems in the county. And then with our last text amendment, the county commissioners did approve that for a CS ESO district, the total number of acres in DeKalb County that can be used in this overlay are 6,000 acres. 3.13, the additional development standards. This is the only part of the ordinance that discusses the approval for the overlay. The additional standards that are part of the UDO are for the development plan, which again, as I've said, has not been submitted and has not been reviewed. So again, this Plan Commission will be hearing recommendations, we'll be doing a public hearing for a recommendation to the county commissioners for a favorable, unfavorable, or no recommendation. And then the county commissioner's decision is to adopt or reject the proposal itself. Pretty simple staff report, but if you have any questions for me, I'd be glad to take them.
It's a more simple staff report than some of the others because there aren't the findings that we normally would have on certain petitions. But you as board members need to pay reasonable regard to A through E on your list there.
Which we'll go through with
we'll go through again. I just wanted to make sure that we're keeping that in mind, that there's no jurisdictional findings that Andrew would normally go through that, check a box or whatever.
Well, I mean, it looks like there are jurisdictional findings, but not the other findings.
Not the other,
Yeah.
not the first findings that we normally do. Is there any more questions for Chris
So
currently?
we're only here just to do the overlay, right?
Correct.
Nothing to do with the plan,
Right.
plan or anything.
Right.
There's no more previous questions. We'll give an opportunity for Sculpin to come up and give their 15-minute presentation.
Sarah, before you get started, will you pull our makeshift blind from the,
Put on your sunglasses, Jason.
thank you.
Scoot out of the way. Scoot back.
All right, good evening, Plan Commission members. Thank you for having me. Let me actually just get set up here before we get started. Absolutely, yep. So before I get started with the presentation, I have some additional letters of support that were provided, and I'll just hand them over to you all.
We won't be able to look at those. They're not part of, because there's a rule in our rules of procedure that state that
Petitioner can't provide additional.
right.
Yeah, no
Anything
worries.
additional has to be submitted 24 hours prior.
Sure. All right. Great. Well, with that, I'll get started. My name is Sarah Massara. I'm a project developer with EDF Renewables, and I'm the lead developer for the Sculpin Solar Project. I got to state my address, 3900 American Boulevard West, Bloomington, Minneapolis. So just a quick note on who EDF Renewables is. We are a developer, owner, and operator of renewable energy projects. We've been in the business since 1985, so we bring over 35 years of experience to our developments and our projects. I just wanted to pause here to say thank you to the Plan Commission for taking the time to review and hear our application and petition. And thank you as well to the community members behind me and throughout the county, just for being so invested in our project. And so with that, let's see if I can work this PowerPoint. All right. So we're here today to present to you all the petition for the Sculpin Solar Project for the Commercial Solar Energy System Overlay District for the parcels within our project to be included in that overlay. And just quick here, more so for the benefit of folks in the room, and thank you also, Plan Commission, for kind of summarizing the process. But just wanted to highlight here that DeKalb County has a robust permitting process. And there are many bodies of government sort of involved in the total approval needed for a commercial solar energy system project. So, as you all have said, we're here today in front of you all, the Plan Commission. You all will make a recommendation to the commissioners. They will then vote, have the final vote on the approval of the overlay. And from there, we'll move forward with our development plan. Just quick, we feel that our project meets all of the requirements, required for the overlay district application. And upon approval of the overlay, we're looking forward to bringing our complete development plan forward for the county's review and approval. I'm a visual person, so I wanted to share just a couple quick visuals to kind of contextualize what it is that this project will be. So what you're seeing on the screen there is just a really zoomed out aerial view of the parcels that we're requesting to be included within the solar overlay district. So parcels in blue there, that's what we're contemplating here tonight. What does this project look like? What is this proposed project possibly going to look like? What you're seeing here is just a roadside view, from the project being operational somewhere around year 1 to year 3 mark. So showing the vegetation there. As you can see, a project such as Sculpin has a low visual profile. Fast forward to right around year 8 to 10, that vegetation is at full maturity, and you can see, it's screened well from view, and it's blends in well with the surrounding areas. So anyway, just a quick visual so you can all kind of have in mind what a project like this would look like. So turning to the findings of fact, of course, first with the comprehensive plan. The comprehensive plan of DeKalb County states that new industrial, commercial, and residential growth is beneficial to DeKalb County. The plan also acknowledges that a solar project is currently operational, serving the county as a source of alternative energy. So we see here that there's precedent for solar facilities within the county. The development of a CSES facility is a strong economic development tool, allowing DeKalb County to utilize strategies that diversify and strengthen the local economy. Further, Sculpin Solar is a temporary use of the land that harnesses existing natural resources. At the end of the project's life, the land, having maintained its agricultural zoning, can be returned to its former use. Sculpin Solar will serve as a tool to preserve and protect the rural character and abundance of farmland, one of the most important land use attributes of the county for future generations. Turning now to the current conditions and character. Sculpin Solar aligns with the current conditions and characters of DeKalb County and the surrounding structures and land uses. As we saw in some of those pictures, solar keeps a low visual profile. It will comply with all height requirements of the UDO, will be thoughtfully screened, utilizing vegetation that is compatible with the surrounding area. Unlike other developments, the solar project will not create noise, smells, pollution, traffic, or other impacts on adjacent land and residents following construction. And again, you'll hear us continue to iterate on this fact. Scope and solar is a preservation tool to keep agricultural land zoned as such and to allow the current conditions and characters of DeKalb County to carry on for future generations. Turning to land use. Scope and solar is expected to generate enough electricity annually to power 33,600 households. Again, the project serves as a preservation tool for the A1 and A2 ag zoning districts to preserve and protect the long-standing heritage and farming legacy of DeKalb County for future generations. Now, historically, as you all know, agricultural districts have supplied a crucial commodity to the U.S. and global economy in the form of food and crops used to generate a myriad of goods, including ethanol. When landowners choose to use their land to quote-unquote farm the sun, they're simply choosing to provide another equally crucial commodity, homegrown, American-made energy. The Scope and Solar project will include 1,778 acres in the CS-ES overlay district. And just for, again, some broader context, this represents approximately 1% of available farmland in DeKalb County. Turning to property values. We'll be bringing up some expert testimony here in a moment from Aaron Bowen from Cohen-Resnick, so I'll hit on the high points. Scope and Solar is not anticipated to have a negative impact on surrounding property values. Scope and Solar brings a minimum investment of $200 million. This large investment will have a significant long-term addition to the county tax base, having a stabilizing impact and providing flexibility for the county to keep taxes low. The provisions within the UDO CSES development plan were developed with much community input, and as you all know, were further amended earlier this year to provide additional restrictions and protections to adjacent property owners. Oh, sorry, I'm a bullet point behind. Scope and Solar looks forward to demonstrating how we are meeting and exceeding these requirements. Finally, turning to the responsible development and growth of DeKalb County. A solar project is a low-impact development. It's a temporary use of the land. It's not a residential development or shopping mall or factory that can't easily be removed at the end of its useful life. It's a temporary energy-generating facility which brings stable, high-dollar, low-maintenance investment to DeKalb County. Scope and Solar will not require a draw on county services and is being constructed near existing transmission infrastructure. In addition to the large investment, the increase to assessed value, 150 to 200 employment opportunities during construction, and 2 to 4 full-time jobs during the operations of the project, the development of a solar facility also brings with it many indirect economic benefits. Additionally, Scope and Solar, as required by the UDO, has entered into an economic development agreement providing $1 million in EDA payments with no granted tax abatement. We believe that Scope and Solar meets all guidelines under the findings of facts, which, as you all know, Plan Commission is directed to pay reasonable regard to. Real quick, where do we head next from here? After the Plan Commission makes a recommendation tonight, it will then go before the commissioners for their final vote, as you all have stated previously. So with that, I'd like to bring up Aaron Bowen from Cohen-Resnick to provide some additional expert testimony.
Good evening. My name is Aaron Bowen. I'm a real estate appraiser and property value expert. At Cohen-Resnick, along with my colleagues Andrew Lines and Pat McGarr, we have studied the potential impacts that solar facilities may or may not have on adjacent property values. I'd like to summarize some of our findings here tonight. Does proximity to solar farms impact property values? Using the methodology outlined in the textbook Real Estate Damages published by the Appraisal Institute, it states that if a legitimate detrimental condition exists, there will likely be a measurable and consistent difference between the two sets of market data. Simply put, if there is an impact, you will be able to measure it, and you'll be able to measure it more than once. At Cohen-Resnick, we have studied over 35 existing solar facilities across the United States in a variety of settings, including suburban and rural environments. Our studies have shown that there is no measurable and consistent difference between in property values for those homes located directly adjacent solar farms as compared to those locationally removed from the influence of the solar facility. Our findings have shown no difference in unit sale prices, conditions of sale, overall marketability, days on market, rate of appreciation, solar facilities did not deter new development, and a before and after construction analysis has shown that the rate of appreciation is similar to other homes in the zip code. I'd like to highlight one study that we have done in Randolph County, Indiana, the Riverstart Solar Farm. This 200 megawatt facility on 1,400 acres of land was completed in December 2021. We identified a home that sold after the completion of the solar facility, and we compared it to 6 control sales that were removed from the influence of the solar facility, and found that the median price per square foot of those control sales was similar to the test area sale. The test area sale was within 2% of those control sales. Here's a picture of that home that sold. You can see that the home was surrounded by solar on 2 sides. We compared this home to other homes similar in style, construction, acreage, size, and quality, and found that there was no difference in market value. I alluded to earlier that solar does not deter new development. The Dominion Indy Solar Farm in Marion County, Indiana, was developed in 2013. You can see in the middle picture that there are existing solar panels adjacent a vacant lot. 3 years after the completion of the solar farm, a brand new $450,000 home was completed with an in-ground pool within 150 feet of the solar panels. You can see here that the second story could view right into the solar panels from the residence itself. 3 minutes remaining. Thank you. Our results have been corroborated by academic studies, as well as our interviews with county and township assessors who have solar in their jurisdiction, as well as interviews with real estate agents who have listed and sold properties immediately adjacent solar facilities. And these interviews and reviews of academic studies have shown that there is no negative impact on property values. In conclusion, our studies and review of other studies have shown there's no consistent negative impact that has occurred to adjacent property that could be attributed to the proximity of solar farms. Thank you so much.
Again, thank you for taking the time to review and consider our application for the inclusion of the Sculpin Solar parcels within the Commercial Solar Energy System Overlay District. I'm happy to take any questions you may have. And I'll turn off the screen there.
If any members from the board have questions for her at this time.
I wanted to confirm, they talked about a temporary use of the land, but when we approve an overlay, that's, unless it's removed at some point in the future, that overlay remains, correct? The solar overlay?
Correct.
Okay. Is your data peer reviewed?
Yes, regarding the property value study, yes, and I'm happy to have Aaron speak more to that. But
in terms of the conclusions?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I mentioned that.
Do you want to? Sorry.
Yes, I mentioned that we review published academic studies, the University of Rhode Island study, University of Texas at Austin, University of Georgia Institute of Technology, and the Berkeley National Lab study. Those are all peer-reviewed and have similar conclusions that there's effectively zero impact on adjacent property values. We have interviewed county assessors who have performed their own analysis, as well as other appraisers who have performed their own studies as well. So we are not the only voices in the sphere. And our findings have shown that there's consensus among the academic world that there is no negative impact.
Now, it looks like the data that you provided includes very small solar complexes as well as very large ones. And so have you distinguished between the impact of those 200 megawatt facilities that are similar to ours versus the smaller ones?
Yeah, we have studied over 35 existing solar facilities from 2 megawatts all the way up to 240 megawatts. We have study examples of homes that have solar in their backyard, their front yard, surrounded on all four sides, homes that are over 100 years old, brand new construction. We haven't found any correlation to size, location, or any other factor that could be attributed to a negative impact. So at this point, we have not identified any scenario in which there is an influence in location or size of project.
Okay, but the averages you cite are averaged together, those large and small projects altogether, when you cite the 0% impact or the no net impact?
So we have studied, 35 existing solar facilities. Our aggregate results of all those studies, I think, is about positive 1.6%. There are, essentially variations, positive and negative, that do not exceed about 5%. But the aggregate of several hundreds of data points from our analysis, as well as the tens of thousands and hundreds of thousands of data points that are of the academic regression studies, have shown no impact.
Okay, are those focused on sort of homesteads, or does that average in the cost of the farmland also and the appreciation or
So
depreciation of the farmland itself?
I believe it's the Georgia Institute of Technology study was focusing on farmland. The University of Rhode Island study focused on homes in rural areas. Our studies have, like I said, done a variety of, studies of farm land, single-family residences, properties on, quarter-acre lots, properties on 20-acre lots. We have not seen a scenario in which there is a negative impact.
Okay, thank you. I'm sorry, I'm a numbers geek, so.
That's all right.
And also, it's probably in the study, you talked about the control versus the test. What sort of proximity to the solar arrays were the test subjects versus the control?
So the methodology is we like to keep it within the same school district so that we're accounting for similar buyers, but we're, I believe the distance from the solar panels is 3 miles, so that there's no direct relationship to the impact of the solar facility might have on those control sales.
Okay, so the test might be half a mile, and
So the
then
test
control
sale,
would be more than
the
2
test sale
miles, something
is
like that?
the home that is directly adjacent to the solar facility. It shares a parcel line with a solar facility, but the control sales, the ones that we're making sure that we are removing the influence of the solar, those are homes that are beyond 3 miles away, but are located within the same school district.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
In this binder that was sent out to us, says that in the economic benefits of the county, it claims a $30 to $35 million tax revenue at the life of the project. What is the life of the project?
Yeah, great question. So the life of the project is up to 40 years. That's the maximum term that our agreements with our landowners go to. However, that said, we do have a signed power purchase agreement with AEP I&M that is a 30-year term. So the max is up to 40. Does that answer your question?
And in that 40 years, how many times are those maintenance done on those panels?
Yeah. So we'll hire 2 to 4 full-time EDF Renewables employees who will serve as our operations and maintenance technicians for the project. And the short answer is, however often needed, right? They're there to maintain the facility over the life, however often needed.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And so why is it only limited to 40 years then? Why are you saying 40 years?
Yeah, a few reasons. First and foremost, our ability to utilize those parcels is hinged upon, our agreements with local property owners, right? And those agreements have gone up to 40 years because that's what those folks have chosen to allow through our leases, right? And then secondly, it also has to do with where the technology for a solar facility is and the expected life of a solar panel module.
Will the area that's doesn't have the actual solar array continue to be, well, so it's 800 or 900 acres of
Yeah.
the 1,800, right? They would
Yeah,
actually
so
have the solar
approximately we
panels.
have 1778 acres, right, in the overlay. That reflects the actual parcel's boundaries and what we have leased. And then the areas behind the fence is about right around 1,000 acres. I can get the exact number from the application here. The short answer is that it will be really dependent on what our landowners want to do. Based on the setback requirements in the UDO, some of those acreages where we're not able to build on due to setbacks are possibly too small to continue to farm or kind of oddly shaped, right? So at the end of the day, Scope and Solar is responsible for maintaining the total of those 1778 acres. And again, when we get closer to construction, it'll be a conversation with our landowners of, hey, got these 15 acres here. Would you like to continue farming it, or would you like us to maintain it?
Okay, yeah, and I understand we're not reviewing the
Yeah,
development
yeah, of
plan,
course.
but some of the context
The
of what would
context
happen to
matters,
that.
yeah.
So it could be plus or minus that 800 or 900 acres of panels, because it depends on the final development plan and the final
Sure.
arrangements, right? Whatever, that'll be submitted, and then the area between may or may not continue as farmland.
That's correct.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Has there ever been any studies or any trials of incorporating ag in with these panels?
Yeah. That's a really exciting part of the renewable energy industry, and it's one that is certainly on the forefront, and I think where the renewable energy industry is headed. Short answer, yes. If you want to look at a concrete example, I'd encourage you to Google Jack's Solar Farm in Colorado. That's a really good example, and they have some ongoing studies going on with Colorado State University, Arizona State University. Aside from that, I can tell you that at EDF Renewables, we've explored the concept of what's referred to as agrivoltaics. So we do have some active agrivoltaics projects in Canada and in New York, and it's not actively contemplated for the Scope and Solar project, but certainly something that we're open to exploring should the project get approved.
Can the panels, the rows of the panels be far enough apart that you could do some haying or something in between them?
Yeah, it really depends on the design of the site, right? But second, in terms of at least EDF Renewables approach, we typically look to the community to have any potential of agrivoltaics be community-led. So if there's someone that's interested in doing that type of farming, we can look at and see what adjustments we need to make to our site plan accordingly. But just to be transparent with you all, that's not a commitment we're making today, because we don't want to overcommit and underdeliver. Something we're open to, we're actively exploring. No confirmed plans as of today.
Part of the development phase, but
Yeah.
I still wanted to bring the question up
Yeah.
before we get to that, if it gets to that. What about grazing?
Yeah, oh, absolutely. Yeah. Grazing for sheep is a very viable option. Yes, and we have, EDF Renewables has multiple projects within our portfolio that utilize sheep grazing.
And I've looked at two studies. One, there's a solar field out to Iowa, to answer your question. They put their panels far enough away apart that, not the equipment I have, but if you have the older and smaller tractor, they bale hay off of it. And then the next farm, and they also use that as a sheep grazing. They have the sheep out there and they make their hay.
Yeah.
I think they're both the same. There's two farms right together, but that's one of the projects you could look at sometime, because they couldn't put goats or cattle on it because goats like to climb on the solar panels, and sheep was the one. And then they put them, I want to say 25 feet apart, something that they could pull, older style mower and a baler and stuff down in.
I'll also note that I'm aware of a study that's actively in progress over at Purdue. They have some test facilities there where they're looking at just kind of different iterations of how that could go. But we're getting a little off topic, but it's something that I'm very interested in, and I'm happy to answer more questions about after.
I was going to add, Jerry, that, yeah, there have been several studies done, not just with Purdue, but across other universities that are actively looking at, especially vegetable gardening, not vegetable gardening, but vegetable farming under the panels, because they can have different terms of shade tolerance and things like that. And then actually this past spring, the Indiana Sheep Association actually actively had a entire field day designated to grazing sheep and solar projects and things like that. So there is a lot of information out there about both those topics.
Yeah.
And I just want, just to be clear, all of the owners of the parcels that would be covered by this have agreed.
Correct. And
With Sculpin.
yes, absolutely. The only reason we're allowed to even entertain the idea of this development is because these landowners have entered into lease agreements with us specific for a solar facility. They've also, in your application binders, they've signed a property owner acknowledgement form acknowledging to this specific application. Thank you.
Are there any studies on conservation, like ground nesting birds or anything where it would be like a CRP grasses, native grasses that you could?
Yeah, so there are, as part of the UDO development plan requirements, for our site plan, we would be required to plant native forbs and grasses underneath the panels and in the setback areas, right? To your point, creating a habitat, not only allowing the land to lie fallow and rest in a, call it productive way, but also it does, provides habitats for a variety of little critters. But specifically speaking to studies, I believe the University of Wisconsin has one, but I would have to get back on you to confirm.
Okay, thank
you.
I'm sorry, I maybe need to direct it to you. On the interviews you had with the real estate agents and the assessors on the property values, did you validate that data or you took them at their word for what they were saying? And do you have any control over that data? Did they use the same test and control data as what you did in your studies?
For the North Star Solar Facility, the county assessor was independently curious and conducted his own study. We did that study ourselves, and so our results corroborated with that. Typically, we call county assessors who have solar in their jurisdiction. We ask them several questions, including, have you noticed any trends in sale prices in your jurisdiction for homes that are adjacent solar facilities? They haven't, and they've replied that they haven't noticed any trends for those homes. We've also asked them if they have changed their methodology in the way they assess those properties, and they have reported that they have not. And then we also asked if they have been requested and granted homeowners requests to reduce their assessed values, and they have not. So in some cases, we are calling on the assessors that have solar in their jurisdiction for properties that are for solar facilities that we are studying ourselves. So we are corroborating our results with those county and township assessors, and sometimes we don't have the opportunity to do studies on everything. So we are calling the county and township assessor and not able necessarily to do a full-scale analysis on that particular facility ourselves. But we have spoken with, I believe, over 65 assessors, and at this point, we haven't really identified any feedback from assessors that have shown that there is a negative impact that they have been able to track and monitor.
Not a single one, huh?
I do not believe so, that one has been able to definitively corroborate, saying that yes, we do see that. Most of the times they have no evidence whatsoever.
Okay, and how new is the data? How updated is it?
We are actively doing this every month. So we're actively, for our studies that we have previously completed, we are actively, making sure that there's been no additional transactions, and we are, performing, I think we're at about 6 new studies per year. So we're very active in this world.
So if this was March 7th of 2023, the data is good through maybe the end of 2022 approximately, or what?
Yeah, I would say that, the data is probably good for, at least 6 months, 12 months is reasonable. So while the report that was submitted, I believe, was in March, I would say, yes, it's still relevant today, and we could update that for the next meeting if that was a concern. But we're still very active in studying property values. And, since March, I have not seen any evidence that would indicate that the work that we performed back in March is no longer relevant.
Okay, thank you.
I have one.
Yeah.
Other than the infrastructure, what is your reasoning for targeting areas for solar projects?
Sure.
I
The
guess I'll
infrastructure.
clarify. Sorry, let me clarify first.
Yeah.
Why do we target open area
Sure.
instead of already developed area first? And then
Sure.
exhaust that area?
Great question. And just to clarify, when you say infrastructure, you mean like existing
Power lines.
transmission lines, power lines? Okay,
Transmission
great.
lines,
Yeah. Yeah. Reason being quite simply is that is the land that is best suited for literally the engineering requirements of a solar facility. The land does need to be generally flat for the most part. It needs to be open, not shaded. And so we don't look to site these facilities on wooded acreage, right? Or highly developed areas where there's potential for shading. So that's the short answer.
You didn't quite follow me.
Sure.
Why would we not explore a giant Walmart roof and Walmart
sure.
parking lot that's already there?
Got it.
Is it because it's easier?
Yeah, so we do explore those areas as well. There's multiple classes of solar developments, right? There's utility scale solar, which is at the scale that the scope and solar facility is at in terms of the amount of megawatts that we can commit to the existing electric grid. So we're talking 180 megawatt facility, requires roughly 340,000, there we go, modules. So that type of facility physically is too large for, carports, Walmarts, things like that. That said, EDF Renewables, we have multiple branches within our company. The branch that develops these types of projects is referred to as the grid scale portion of our company. The Walmarts, the parking lots, those smaller facilities, we do develop as well, but under a distribution scale. So those facilities are connecting to distribution level lines, whereas utility scale projects are connecting to transmission facilities at a higher voltage and a higher amount of power we're able to provide to the grid. Did that answer your question? I maybe went a little into the weeds.
Sort of.
Yeah.
Walmart and Kroger are fairly close together, and some of these are fairly close together, but some of them are not super close together. So I guess I don't totally follow your logic, but
sure.
I understand your answer.
Right.
They're structural different.
In terms of the wattage and the literal megawatts that a utility has demand for, those existing structures cannot physically support that quantity. So it's a coupling of both existing infrastructure as well as existing demand from utilities or other customers. So for this project, it's with the utility.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are you tying into the high voltage transmission lines?
That's correct.
Over there, or could you also tie into the medium voltage transmission lines that run throughout the county?
Sure. So for this
Anywhere in the county?
Yeah. So for this facility, we're tying into the high voltage line. It's the South Butler to Hicksville line that's over there.
Okay.
Yeah.
But this kind of a scale could tie into the many medium voltage transmission lines that crisscross north, south, east, west through the county?
It could, as long as they're not the distribution level lines. Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yep, you're right.
Yeah.
Understood.
Yep.
Once again, what was your comment on this project? How many houses would this provide electricity to?
So it's 33,600 houses annually that this project will generate the equivalent electricity for.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Any more from the board for Sarah?
Thank you for your time.
Okay. Is there any discussion amongst the board before we go into a public hearing? Questions for Chris? Any of that? Okay, we will now open the public portion of the comment for this petition. Again, there'll be a time limit. We'll do 40 minutes. We'll do 20 minutes for and 20 minutes against. Each person will have 3 minutes, and Alicia will keep the time. And like I said, just come to the podium, speak your name and address, and try to get right to your point so that the next person can have time as well.
Are you going to do it first, or are you just going to have them?
I would prefer to try to stay on one side and then to the other, so we.
Well, state which ones you want to come first, and.
Right, I think we'll do. I have it in the agenda as we would do 4 first. So no particular order, just.
I'll give a 30-second warning to let you know that your time's about up.
Yeah. No microphone required. So I'll open it up to anybody that wishes to speak for allowing the Sculpin to enter the CSES district.
And in spirit of keeping this moving, let's have people lined up if you can, so we're not asking again and again and again. So, thanks. I personally don't live in DeKalb County. Letter. It's 3 pages long. Half the act of the 800 active and retired members of IBW Local 305, Indiana, and the 49 in DeKalb County, are in full support of the Sculpin. That better? Okay. On behalf of the 800 active and retired members of IBW Local 305, Fort Wayne, Indiana, and the 49 in DeKalb County, I write in full support of the Sculpin Solar Project in DeKalb County, Indiana, under development with EDF Renewables. EDF is committed to utilize local union labor for the 180 megawatt project and employ members of IBW 305, Fort Wayne, Indiana. The project will create more than 200 construction jobs during peak construction and is anticipated to employ a significant number of IBW members of Local 305. Thanks to partnerships with the IBW and other labor unions, the Sculpin Solar Project represents a significant, positive, and responsible economic development opportunity for Indiana. Good union jobs create an economic ripple effect as union members' incomes contributes directly or indirectly to state and local payroll taxes, increased spending in local business and local construction vendors, investments in job training, increased local charitable contributions, increased tourism, and more. The project is estimated to provide $300 to $400 million in total economic benefit and approximately $80 to $130 million in direct payments to local government, communities, schools, and private landowners. The IBW and signatory contractors are the largest private sector trainer of electrical workers in the United States. Apprentices earn while they learn, including health and retirement benefits. Aside from books and tools, they're receiving a free education for a highly skilled, well-paying profession. The IBW and our employers spend $180 million annually on training at hundreds of centers across the country. IBW has been training the most qualified electricians in the trade for nearly 130 years. This partnership is the largest private sector training of electrical workers in the United States, providing cutting-edge apprenticeships and ongoing education programs in the most advanced energy technologies, including renewables. IBW training centers are industry funded by collective bargaining agreements, providing unmatched education to apprenticeships. IBW highly trained professional workforce will be key to building sustainable, renewable electric infrastructure in DeKalb County. On behalf of the highly skilled members of the IBW and our commitment to a lifelong investment in training the next generation of workers, I'm proud to support the Sculpin Solar Project. Respectfully, Kip Howard, Business Manager, IBW Local 305. Thank you.
My name is Scott Graham. I live at 7841 County Road 32, Butler, Indiana. I am in favor of this solar project, but before my name, I am a human being, just like everyone here, and I welcome the viewpoints of anyone here opposed or in favor of this solar project. Solar is already in DeKalb County. The United States is behind in solar panel production due in part from decades ago of natural gas and petroleum producers fearing solar would hurt their profits. The greater good. If railroads were a new concept, would there be opposition? Yes, I would oppose railroads initially, but in the end, I would vote in favor because of the greater good. I would lay aside my grievances and realize this nation needs railroads. I believe this nation needs solar energy collectors. Thank you.
Robert Glick. We have a farm out east of Auburn, and I'm totally in favor of this going through. And I am embarrassed at all you people for, I feel, dragging your feet. We're missing a lot of opportunity here, revenue for the county, which would actually lower our taxes. Just think about that just for a little bit. Any questions? Thank you.
Good evening, Chip Hample, 4046 County Road 63, Butler. I'm here representing Hample Farms, and we are a participant in the Sculpin project. So obviously, I would encourage you to go forward with the overlay district. You know, as I look at some of these points, they talk about land use and a whole variety of things, but it still comes back, in my mind, to this issue of development. Controlled development and controlled growth. You're talking about potentially the second largest investment in terms of assessed value in the history of this county. Okay? And if you think about that investment in different kinds of terms, the most significant investment obviously occurred back in the 90s when SDI chose to came and the associated things that came with it. But that investment also brought some additional issues. For example, they built an access road, which they eventually turned over to the county to maintain. We're bringing assessed value, or talking about assessed value, without the associated other problems of traffic, noise, a variety of things. So it's a pure form of growth, and one that you have by your development ordinance and the guidelines of the overlay limited within the county to 6,000 acres to maintain that controlled growth. So to me, it's a win for the county in that regard. I'll make no bones about it. This is a win project for those that participate in it like I did. There's no getting around that. And that's one of the incentives to do it. But there is an enormous benefit, in my opinion, to the county as a whole. So I encourage you to make a favorable recommendation. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Kelly Watson. I'm 3520 South Meeker, Muncie. I don't live in DeKalb County, but I represent 50 members who do. Land Locals 11, 12, and 213 represent more than 1,800 members and apprentices in DeKalb County and Blackford counties in the surrounding northeastern Indiana, including, jumped over here. I'm trying to skip through here so I don't have to read the whole thing. These are trained craft construction workers who provide high-quality construction services to Indiana consumers, industries, and utilities. Our members work on a variety of Indiana electric projects. We actually are finishing up a project in Randolph County right now, and it's been very economical, beneficial to the county. We have another project that's going to be going to Blackford as well for the economic benefit. We represent, a lot of families in this area. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Nick Miller. I also do not live in in DeKalb County. I live in Allen County. But I know a lot of people who work at Nucor and Steel Dynamics. You should ask those people what they think of this solar power, wind power, because that's your largest employers. They make the most money. In fact, I think Steel Dynamics made almost $6 billion last year. They just signed a huge monumental contract to take 16% of their total power usage as a company. That's $22 billion per year. 16% of their annual power resources. They just signed a contract here in the last couple of months. 16% of that is coming from projects like this, right here. Billions of dollars. Nucor, Steel Dynamics, 2 out of the 4 largest steel companies in America. They're all switching to this technology. 40% of all new power generating is solar powered. Let me repeat that. 40%. This is not a newfangled idea. This is not something that is going to change how farming is done. If you don't like it, don't sell your farm ground to them. It's that simple. If you don't like it, don't have it. Don't watch a dirty movie. Don't watch or don't read a dirty book. It's that easy. But to tell somebody that they can't do what they want with their property or their family's property is ridiculous. Solar, there was a couple people that said solar detracts from property values. Energy.gov said solar often decreases the value of a home. Constellation, which is one of the largest power companies in the world, says it can be up to $15,000 more than comps. There's low maintenance costs. I don't know if you know that 30 million acres of farm ground are idled by the federal government every year. 30 million. We're talking 1,000 acres here. So if the argument is, well, we don't have any farm ground, ask the people who are buying it up, because there's farm ground out there. You may not want to sell it at the price that they want to offer, but if somebody's paying you a premium to lease your farm ground because the company doesn't own the farm ground, they're leasing farm ground, they don't have to. Again, that's a choice to make in your house. It's what you want to do with you made the money, you bought it. So why should any of these people be able to tell you what you can and can't do with it? I don't tell them what to do in their house. They want to beat their kids, great. If they don't, that's fine too. It's none of my business. Just like this is none of their business.
30 seconds.
So it also costs about 28% as much to charge an electric vehicle per mile, per 100 miles, as it does as a comparable gas car. This is 1,000 acres. 10 million acres would be needed to power the entire United States. That's 100 by 100. We can do it. Get out of the 1890s. I did, actually. It's great. I don't have a power bill.
Let's try not to have crosstalk, though, please.
William Miles, 5149 County Road 52, Auburn. Well, I think it is our business and I am for the support of the solar projects in DeKalb County. And I do think it is if somebody's beating their kid, then we need to be watching for it. So sorry about those comments. But at the same time, it's my ground, my family's ground. I'm not in this program, but I'd be in one of the other groups that's looking at doing solar. It's a 30-year set-aside program that I make more than property taxes. Property taxes have gone up recently. If you look at, for the farmers, price of fuel, seed, everything has gone up. But what you sell it for, corn and that, is virtually the same it was way back when. Here's a possibility for me to be able to have my farm in solar for 30 years or 40, depending on the length of the lease and that, and extensions possibly that I have on mine. That is virtually a set-aside program that then they pull everything out and it's farmable again. If you go wind, I know I've got friends over in Ohio that have wind. They still, even with 200 horse farm tractors, can't break the ground up where the crawlers went across the field. And that cement is there forever. If they stop doing the wind, they still lose a chunk in the middle of their field because of it. This is going to disappear if they decide to pull out after a certain time. Everybody wants money too. The school systems, the highway, this is money coming into the area that's not out of my back pocket directly that way. And let me tell you, being retired, but farming and that, my wallet's not getting thicker, and it's starting to get where they're having to pick pretty hard to get something out of it but lint. So I just support the system. I mean, support the solar system. I understand they don't think they want it around them. I'd have it around 3 sides of my house. I'd much rather have that than the steel mill or a solar or a windmill out there. So I just, please support this. I'd like to see it moving forward quickly.
Anybody else? Then we will move on to those that wish to speak against the petition. Obviously, same format. Try to keep it on topic.
Nicole Steary, 4594 State Road 1, Butler. We're, as a group, speaking, so we're going to address the questions that you guys have to address tonight. We've heard all these stories before. It is disappointing to me that more people for the project didn't speak, specifically people on the project. We don't have a corporate-made slideshow. We don't have corporate manufactured speeches. We are truly speaking from the heart of DeKalb County, which is what we are focusing on here. We are making this decision for everybody. It is his land, but it's also our land, and it's our family's lands. It's everybody needs to be considered in a project like this. The company even says it's commercial. None of us expected for commercial projects to be in our backyard. SDI's in my backyard. He didn't want SDI in his backyard either. But now I'm going to have solar too. So we have to consider everybody. So thank you for letting us all speak. We are, again, speaking as a group. That's not 50 people, it's thousands of people in DeKalb County. We have to consider everybody in this. So now I'll get to my corporate slideshow here. So again, it's important to be educated on this. There are horror stories. You know, we talk about assessed projects, no sales. You know, maybe these people can't sell their house. Maybe that's why there's no data. We don't know. These are all hypotheticals. We have to take all the hypotheticals out of it. Right now, what we're focusing on is the comprehensive plan, the UDO. Are we doing what our plan is? So question 1 that you guys are going to consider is, does the overlay request pay reasonable regard to the comprehensive plan? Our comprehensive plan prioritizes the protection of farmland. I assume you've all read the comprehensive plan, the UDO. The people that are against solar have. We've read it. We know it in and out. I assume you guys do too. So when reviewing how economic development fits within the comprehensive plan, all strategies revolve around strengthening the quality of life and providing employment opportunities. He referenced employment. Another person referenced employment. Most of these jobs are temporary jobs. Nothing, beyond the construction is 2 to 4 people that probably won't be on site. So it's temporary. So it's also very specifically says there's a, quote, elevated need to enhance the attractiveness of communities and regions as great places to live. The second question that you're going to talk about is, does the overlay request pay reasonable regard to the current conditions and character of structures and uses underlying zoning district? The overlay request is incompatible with the underlying zoning district. As a matter of fact, there are very specific uses laid out for A1 and A2 ground, and solar complies with none of them. Not only does it not comply, Sculpin has openly said their lawyers have found loopholes. And Ginger, you're up.
Ginger Miller, 7348 County Road 46, Butler. Does the overlay request pay reasonable regard to the conservation of property values through this jurisdiction? No, it does not. In my professional opinion, being a local realtor for almost 10 years, DeKalb County is currently very desirable. It is close to Fort Wayne, yet far enough away to still have the small town feel. There are so many people that just want a couple of acres out in the country. This is called desirability. People are already selling or saying if solar comes in, we want out, but will they be able to? I have personal and professional knowledge of buyers changing their minds based solely on the possibility of solar coming here. Do you really believe that a buyer would choose to live in or be surrounded by an industrial power plant and pay full appraised value? Ask yourself, would you want to buy being surrounded by solar panels? They talk about this Conresnick property value studies. Well, Conresnick Capital is an affiliated company that stands to profit from solar. The solar developers' studies are funded by them to provide the results they want. Let's talk about small scale versus large scale solar. There's a Conresnick study looking at values around 9 solar plants located in Indiana and Illinois to see how property values would be impacted. This study has been used across the Midwest as evidence that solar plants do not affect property values. However, 1, that is a small-scale solar study, and 2, none of these projects had affected homes on more than one side. Sculpin will be on multiple sides of multiple properties in DeKalb County. These 9 projects near a town ranging from 13 to 160 acres are small-scale solar installations. For large-scale solar, we have examples of 10 solar projects. They range from $1,400 to $5,000 acres each. How can this study compare to what Sculpin is wanting to do to DeKalb County? Sculpin is proposing approximately 1,600 to 1,800 acres. These studies are not comparing apples to apples. With the Sculpin project alone, we are looking at around 70 households within approximately half a mile of the project. Mary McClinton Clay is a real estate appraiser with extensive experience, which also includes being an expert witness in many court proceedings. Mary provides a summary of her fully documented report on property damage studies dated June of 22. She stated that though the amount of devaluation varies, the evidence presented by these case studies of 100 megawatts or less solar farms indicates that solar farms damage property values by at least 6 to 30%. Sculpin's proposed project is 180 megawatts, almost double. So do we assume that the property devaluation will be 12 to 60%? Mary's study highlighted 3 different solar companies' financial incentives for non-participating neighbors that range from $5,000 to $50,000. She stated these good neighbor payments are significant because the developer's own appraisers have determined that the solar farms will have no adverse impact on adjacent property values. However, the payments can only be interpreted as an admission of value impairment. These companies are here to make a profit, robbing rural America.
Andrew Provines, 3920 County Road 75. You know, we were actually going to bring Mary out, but we do not have nearly the amount of funds as Sculpin does. Like, they got tons of money. They can fly out anytime they want. We're just locals. I'm here to answer question 3. Does the overlay request pay reasonable regard to the most desirable use for which the land is adapted? It's almost laughable. It is not. This is farm ground. If you actually go look at American Farmland Trust, Farms Under Threat, it's a presentation which was at a land use summit, which is actually comical because they kind of would not speak bad about solar, but they're like, we need to protect farmland. And if I had a map, if I had some sort of presentation, it would show the United States kind of doing one of these, where like the entire Midwest is super fertile ground, has really, really, really good soil for farming. There's areas in the rest of the country that this makes sense. You could put this in other areas, deserts, tons of deserts, cover them. They can't produce. Here we produce, we feed. It was funny, I heard one of the governor-elects obviously, basically stating that we feed the world. And by 2050, they say we need 70% more food production. That's a huge amount. The last question I'm going to hit is question 5. Does the overlay pay reasonable regard to responsible development and growth? Okay. So this was hit a little bit earlier, but responsible development and growth. I want to know what responsible really means. So in my opinion, it does not, but is it responsible to apply extra land rights that benefit a few at the cost of many? So 7 landowners are going to benefit from this, and at least 70 within a half mile, I think it is, are going to have their properties hurt. They're going to have to live around this. 40 years is a long time, guys. Is it responsible to allow foreign companies control of land? They can say they're not foreign. EDF is foreign. Leeward is foreign. BP is foreign. They are foreign companies. Is it responsible to wrap people in solar? It's cute when they say solar farms are not. It is a power generation facility. Is it responsible to wrap them up in that? Is it responsible to trap people? Because if they can't sell their house because they're right there, is it okay to just have them trapped or just basically cut and run? Is it responsible to destroy their home investment? That's one of the biggest investments we can ever make. And is it responsible to possibly make them liable on insurance claims because the county has allowed it? I want to know when we consider the concerns of 2,000 people against 7 people making a bunch of money. When we stop picking winners and losers, when a few people stop controlling this county, when we stop catering to businesses at the expense of everyone else, the little people, and when elected, appointed officials do better for the county. Do better. Everyone, do better.
Ready? Okay. Jessica Shaw, 3865 County Road 79. Bill, I'm going to try really hard not to make you mad today. So I'm gonna just do a little bit of directness because one thing that really bothers me about solar is dancing around questions that are asked and conveniently leaving out information that's going to negatively impact the people that live here. One of the things in their presentation says there's no noise, but if you've listened to the inverters, that's simply not true. They say they can power 33,000 homes, but sure, at the expense of your paycheck. We're already seeing NIPSCO requesting an additional $27 a month from their customers to accommodate the cost that's happening from renewable energy. Jason talked to her and asked about why aren't we putting these on top of commercial buildings? And we dance around that when the truth is we don't make as much money. It's not as profitable, but we won't just stand up and say that, right? They talk about the increased revenue and taxes for the county. That's true, but what about the lost revenue for seed companies, for diesel companies? Our 6,000 acre cap is only as good as our commissioners, and we all know commissioners are changing in 2024. That can easily be removed and we can become Pulaski County. We talk about how this is the second largest investment and keep comparing it to SDI, but SDI, there's a ton of people in this room I personally know who work at SDI. So when he talks about bringing in SDI and Nucor employees, because they're investing 16% of their money into renewable energy, it's so they can purchase carbon credits and purchase the ability to pollute further. That's why they're investing that money. So let's not be confused about that. Nobody's doing this to save the planet. I think Watson told me that one time in a phone conversation, that it's about economic growth. Land use, no one gets to do what they want with their land. That's why we have the BZA. No one's ever been able to get to do what they want with their land in DeKalb County or any other county for that matter. Talked about, got that one. One of the landowners said that he talked about expenses not coming out of his pocket for once, that times are difficult. You're right, you're making a choice that makes some of the landowners rich while increasing electric bills, hurting property values, decreasing the quality of life for the people who live in our county, for the people who show up and shop at our stores and come to our restaurants and go through our gas stations and send their kids to our schools. So while some, this is financially benefiting, others it's hurting. We already presented 1,599 petitions at the commissioners meeting here a few months ago, and that number is growing. I have over, 84 responses in one day of people in DeKalb County who don't want solar, who don't want their property values hurt, who are pleading with you guys to not choose to accommodate 7 over hundreds, sometimes thousands of people if you consider all of these projects for the sake of greed and financial gain. That's all.
Justin Reinig, 5041 County Road 52 in Auburn. As somebody who, I have a math degree, and as somebody who's worked with numbers like my whole adult life, it's extremely concerning to me to hear numbers and data, and I've never been more convinced that I can make a number tell you anything I want it to tell you. And so my question is, and my concern is, how significant is this data? And if you have to Google significance of data, please do. Let's make sure that this is representative of who we're in this room to represent and lead. I don't know everything about everything. I can only share with you and hope you empathize with my situation. Andrew shared a little bit earlier that there's several people that are directly impacted and have developments that are proposed to just surround our house. I'm one of those. So imagine working hard and saving for the property and house you're excited to live in. Not only for you, but for your kids. You're excited to start that multi-generational dream here in DeKalb County, much like many of the families in this county have all these years. You happily pay taxes because you love where you live and you're excited for your kids to grow up here too. It's your place of freedom, your own little slice of heaven. It's the real world embodiment of the comprehensive plan the DeKalb County leadership has promised to preserve and pursue for all of us residents. After 3 short years, that actually hangs in the balance for you now. Me. Not only does a proposed project threaten to leave you or me sitting in the center of a 1,500-acre solar field, but it happened so quickly and so covertly that now I'm a prisoner even if I disagree. So I'm left with a dream property that has significantly decreased in value. I don't care what anybody tells me. And it renders me helpless to sell even if I wanted to. I fear that our home will no longer be a place of freedom and peace for me and my family, but it's going to become a prison of dreams left shattered. A reminder of what could have been a sickening, captive reality that nobody wants my property, even if I want out. Not only does this strategy misrepresent me, this decision could financially set me back a generation with a decrease in, Not only is this incongruent with our own standards for land use, it seems that our leadership is entertaining the obvious seduction of increased revenue at the expense of the values we swore to protect. Organizations might find ways to mince words and find an interpretation to justify what we want to do, but I ask you to lead and truly make the right decisions to preserve the right for more people to want to continue growing their families here. I want to live in DeKalb County. I want my kids and grandkids to build their future here. I'm just asking you to lead and represent us with both a mind for economic responsibility and the pride of our residents. Thank you.
5 minutes remaining. Thank you. My name is Mike Boldemeyer, 3754 County Road 71, Butler, Indiana. I just want to start out by saying that from the moment I found out about these projects, I have had a knot in the pit of my stomach. This is going to kill a once quiet and beautiful county. I bought my dream hunting property up here in 2006 and was finally able to call it home when I finished my house in January of 2019. They are not only destroying some of the best farm ground in the country, they are also destroying a lot of wildlife habitat. I pray I didn't stick my neck out and go into debt for my life dream only to get my legs chopped off from under me by my property values dropping in the gutter. And at the same time, my tax dollars are funding this fiasco in my terms. And my electric bill is already going up, while others in the food chain are getting fat. And also, what about the UDO rules for the structures? Those were put in place precisely for times like these to protect our community. Before retiring, I was in commercial and residential construction for 40 years, 20 years of which I had my own business. Among probably one of the better qualities was my time management skills. When I start working in my head, the amount of manpower, construction equipment, then factor in weather delays, supply chain issues, and a strained trucking industry right now, to get all this equipment in, I can see this is going to be many, many, many years of congested roads, mud smeared on the roads, major construction noise, and in the end, none of this benefits all of us living around it. It only hurts us. I am begging you to stop this now. There is no way that in this state of very limited sunshine that filling these fields with toxic solar panels is more cost effective and beneficial to our community than supplying food to the masses. Thank you for your time.
Jeff Moore, 4961 County Road 47, retired operating engineer. These labor organizations do not speak for me, and I know the mess they will make. The only reason they're here is because they want work from them. It's fine if if it goes through and they get to work, that's fine. But they are not. It's none of their business to have a viewpoint on this.
I'm Amy Prosser, live at 7607 County Road 32, and I do not support this project at all.
Hello, good evening. Joshua Godsey, 8019 County Road 40, and I do not support this project. Thank you.
Good evening, Ann 40, 5125 County Road 60, St. Joe, Indiana. I am not a lifelong resident of DeKalb County. I've only been here 17 years. Before living here, we lived outside in Los Angeles, California. And I remember a friend of mine whose nephew came out to visit her, and he said, "Aunt Nancy, it smells like concrete out here." Now, I would hate to have my grandkids come to DeKalb County, which I love. I mean, we traded the freeways of California to the cornfields of DeKalb County, and it's a beautiful thing. And so I do not wish to have my grandchildren come out and say, "Grandma, it sounds and looks like solar out here." No, let's keep the cornfields, please, and the farmers. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Judy Kraft. I live at 5475 County Road 60, St. Joe, Indiana, and I'm against this project.
Ben Kraft, 5543 County Road 60, St. Joe, Indiana. I do not support this project.
Lori Schaefer, 7559 County Road 46, Butler, Indiana. I do not support this project.
Tina Kraft, 5501 County Road 75A. I do not support this project.
Terry Rosenberry, 6260 County Road 44. We do not support this program.
Colbin Sturry, 4594 State Road 1. I don't support this atrocity coming to our county.
Janet Provines, and I do not support this process.
Anita Boltmeyer, and I do not support this project.
Brian Provines, Butler, Indiana. I do not support this project.
Kyla Kraft, St. Joe, Indiana. I do not support this project.
Vicki Tuttle, Butler, Indiana. My husband or I, neither one support this project.
More out here. I'm going to look at all of them. Yeah. Oh, that's. That'll conclude the public input portion for this petition. Now we'll have some time for the board to deliberate and comment and ask questions again to Chris or amongst each other. Somebody better talk.
Well, as part of the comments, I think that it would be good to comment on the 5 different areas that we have that you have to take reasonable and pay reasonable regard to: the comprehensive plan, the current conditions and character of current structures and uses, the most desirable use for which the land in each district is adapted, the conservation of property values throughout the jurisdiction, and responsible development and growth. You have to pay reasonable regard to those, and so I think it would be good if we had some comments from as many of you as would be willing to do that. Don't be shy.
Well, I'll go ahead and start with the first piece of it. I've gone through and really trying to make an honest assessment and get rid of the noise, really focus on these 5 questions. And so I went to the comprehensive plan. And I pulled out quotes from that to provide some guidance, at least on that piece A. Regarding Section 2, history and community character, the comprehensive plan states that the small town and rural character of DeKalb County is very important to the residents of the community. There's a strong desire to maintain this character while allowing for progress and development. Section 3, focus and manage growth. First one is the rural character and abundance of farmland is one of the most important land use attributes of the county. Generally, agricultural should be considered to be the primary land use beyond the planned growth areas outside of each municipality. Point 2, conservation. Under Section 3, conservation of agricultural land not only requires limiting its residential development, but also proper management of surrounding development. Examples include green spaces and buffers between the ag land and other development zones. Point 3, to assure the best fiscal future for the county and its municipalities, development is encouraged in or adjacent to established cities and towns where developers can connect to already available lines. In point 4, under Section 3 is agricultural zoning is used by communities across Indiana that desire to protect farmland and the industry of farming. Under Section 5, environmental, cultural, and natural resources, point 1, the citizens of the community recognize the value of natural resources found in the rural landscapes and waterways and the need to care for them while respecting the rights of property owners to use their land. Number 2, as communities develop and grow, there's a potential for increased threats to the natural and built environment. For example, new development near waterways and floodplain areas can cause increased risk of flooding for other property owners or in adjoining areas. Section 6, economic development, strategies that strengthen and diversify the local economy will improve the quality of life for the citizens of DeKalb County. Point 2, economic growth that improves the quality of life and creates job diversification, high-paying jobs, and private investment constitutes the focus of economic objectives detailed further in the comprehensive plan. And then when it comes to implementation of policies and strategies, Section 7 indicates discourage development in predominantly agricultural areas that impedes farming practices. And under ED 2.2, promote quality of life initiatives that foster business retention and attraction. So while my personal takeaways is while the UDO allows for commercial solar development on any property, including A1 and A2, with the exception of open spaces, whether it's the proper A1 and A2 land. It's not a blanket. We have to really look to the comprehensive plan to guide us as to whether it's the right A1 and A2 land and whether it's the right layout, and we need to look at the impact of the areas surround that. And I don't believe that, given those pieces in the comprehensive plan, I don't believe that it supports the rural character that is outlined in the comprehensive plan.
That's doing your homework. That's the comments I'm looking for from
I thought
everybody.
I'd kick it off.
I would agree with most of what you stated from the comprehensive plan. Everybody talks about times changing, and we didn't used to have this and that and whatever. We also didn't used to have 300 million people and only getting more. So like you said, the right A1, A2 is big in my mind. I've been kicking myself back and forth for months, trying to study through all this stuff, and I can just convince myself that either side is 100% right.
I think fiscal development and economic development are important parts of the comprehensive plan. And I think that we have to look at those two factors when you look at this solar overlay.
What do you mean by that? Like, can you
Well,
expand on that?
Yeah. It's, when you look at the agricultural part of A1 and A2, and you look at solar going into agricultural A1 or A2, you look at the fiscal development and economic development, you have to look at those two factors that she stated, that Angie stated, along with everything else. You just can't say that I can see parts of it fitting and parts not fitting. You have to look at, does the fiscal development, is that part that fits? Is the economic development a part that fits? And I would say yes, both those parts fit. and the other parts also fit. So I'm thinking that as far as the solar overlay goes, I think it fits in that area. It's sort of confined in that area.
Part of the problem is the comprehensive plan, although it references the Auburn Renewables project, it doesn't really foresee mass utility scale solar projects. And so
No, it
everything,
doesn't.
so the part of the economic development, the big piece in my mind that's missing is those high paying jobs and making it a desirable place to live. And I don't believe the solar overlay in this format, in this area, supports that.
What, as far as numbers go? As far as numbers of jobs, or what part
Well,
of-
I don't know that we've even talked about the net jobs, because there's going to be some amount of jobs lost that would be farming that land, and I don't have that data, but there may be 2 to 4 jobs created, which for the area covered and the investment versus some alternative economic development, I don't know that it's ideal, and there has to be some loss of jobs as well, and I don't know if anybody's studied that, has that information.
What do I want to say? As one of the earlier comments for it, he was retired. He was farming, he's retiring, he signed it in. So you can't judge loss of jobs. 1,800 acres of farm, 2 to 4 employees can hire, 18. And if these people are doing it as a retirement program, that is no loss of jobs to them too. So, I mean, as far as jobs wise, as far as farming, it's either or, because with the equipment we got today, you know, these guys will come in and farm with 2 guys, 4 guys, and that's it. So you're hiring 2 and 4. So I can't see where that's a difference.
I agree, it's probably a wash. So it's not really a relevant point.
In looking at the map, I don't really see houses in the overlay district, except for just a couple, and I'm assuming those are the people that signed up for this. Except for this, and so nobody is surrounded on 4 sides except this one little thing right here to the west side. I wish I'd gone out and looked at that, but I didn't. Some people might be surrounded on 3 sides, but that's not a lot of areas. So in terms of current conditions and the character of current structures, I don't know. I can't tell from this map that there's an awful lot of structures. That are going to be surrounded.
I had asked Chris to provide, just because some of the studies that I had looked at online referenced that half mile within the, from the edge of the solar overlay, and so he kindly had mapped this out and sent this out to all of us early this week, and there are 73 homesteads. There's actually more homes within the half mile of the outline of the proposed overlay, and I guess you can probably find data both ways, whether that impacts property values or not, but that's probably, would be my focus, is how many are within that half mile from the edge of the overlay, proposed overlay.
I will just say I live in the country and I cannot see anything a half mile away from my house. And there's fields in the way, so I wouldn't, personally, I don't know that you would see that, but that's me.
Frank, Jerry, anything on the first item, a comprehensive plan side of it? Any comments? You don't have to. Just asking, just giving you a chance.
I mean, it was hit on with the current conditions and character, so I think we can move on to the most desirable use for which the land in each zoning district is adapted. Angie?
Okay, well, I'll kick it off, and then you can dispute. Actually, if we go back to be the current conditions and character, just, I drove around the area of the proposed overlay. I noticed that they were relatively level in open areas, that the majority of the land was in active crop production, corn and beans, and there were, again, these 74 homes that are within this area is what I witnessed when I looked on site. On C, the most desirable use for which the land is adapted. So based on, again, the information that Chris provided earlier this week, the land use type is overwhelmingly tillable. This is the
Cosegus, and that's actually what Angie and what you all received as well is, sorry, I'm taking your
No, please.
thunder, but is actually from the county assessor's office on what layers they have for how all of you see your properties assessed is how that map is shaped. So, for instance, if someone has 40 acres and they have a house and some barns, an acre of that is assessed as your residential, and then the remaining 39 acres would be assessed as tillable land. So this map just references what that is, and then percentage-wise, I believe, or I don't know if we did percentages or just acreage of, streams and creeks, open ditches, tillable land, right-of-way. Angie she's got the map in front of her to say what that is, but that's what that map is when she requested that is how the land is currently used.
And you also had gone back to 1999 maps, and it generally has been the same over time. It's been farmed again and again.
Correct. Our aerial maps, the earliest we have, I guess, is 1999 for our GIS data, and the most current that we have is 2023. And I told Angie and told the Plan Commission members as well that that's generally been the same except for some pop-up homes here and there.
And there's 1,610 of those acres that are tillable, that are marked as tillable on that report. In the Sculpin binder, they had referenced the NCCPI productivity index on the quality of the productivity of this property. They said of the proposed overlay area, they said it was approximately 61.71 on a scale of 100, which indicates a moderately high inherent productivity category. This is on the Sculpin site-specific addendum report dated March 7th. And then a month or so ago, I went to Indiana Land Use Summit that was hosted by Purdue Extension. They had gone through the farmland PVR values, productivity, versatility, and resiliency. The most recent study that Purdue presentation had was from 2016. And the data comes from Indiana Farmland Trust. It indicated, when I looked at that and sort of roughly mapped out that area, the vast majority of the land in the proposed overlay is moderate to high PVR values, meaning high productivity, versatility, and resiliency. There are other areas of the county, though limited, that do have much lower PVR values. So I question whether this is the most desirable use for which the land is adapted in this specific A1 and A2 area proposed for the overlay.
This is the one, this is the number of the five that I've thought the most about, worked, studied the most about, whatever. Granted, based on what Chris provided, it's not 100% farmed right now, so its efficiency is not 100%. But based on what has been provided about the project, it's closer to 60% use, based on the usable acres versus the leased acres. And looking at the tracks themselves, not just the maps or whatever, it's going to be hard to use any of those 707 acres for production ag. And they're making comments about, can we do crops in between them? Can we do this and that, which would be great, but that's going to reduce the number of panels they can put in, which is going to lower that efficiency really even more. And so I question that desirable use of the land. I had a problem with the usable percentage of the land when we were going back and forth on the setback distances. I felt like, to me, it lowered the amount of the land being used no matter what. And I'm still struggling with that when they come out and say 60%. I mean, granted, that may change, and maybe some of that in the development plan addresses it differently, and some of that will be clumped together and be more usable. I don't know, but this is the one I've really struggled on, and I'm glad you did, the same kind of research that I did, looking at the actual land and not just going by a report. I'm really back and forth on that one.
Without having the development plan to review simultaneously, we can't make assumptions that we're going to use it for grazing or use it for farming. There's been no commitments made. There's no requirements in the UDO, so we can't make any assumptions about what would be a nice to have if it were approved, but we have no commitment that that would happen. So we have to make a decision based on a bit of an unknown there.
So I did a little research and number figuring today, just looking at the potential yield of the crops on that ground compared to the type of actual soil that is there and things like that. So while we had the report from Farmland Trust and such like that, when you look at the physical soil itself, it is fairly limited on the yield amount that ground can supply. I looked at the Natural Resource Conservation Service has a web soil survey. You can go in and literally pinpoint exact acres that you want to look at. So I did broader than what this area is. I did about 6,000 acres encompassing these 1,700 acres. So 1,700 acres was in the center of this area of interest I looked at. So looking at the ground specifically itself, on average, granted this year was a bit of a drought year, and there are some farmers that produce better than others. But on average, according to what the soil is there, we should be getting about 132 bushels of corn an acre, which I just looked, and corn is priced at $4.38 a bushel at Eden Farmers Co-op right now. That nets $574.20 an acre that farmer is going to be getting off that field on corn. When you look at soybeans, that area specifically, about 43 bushels an acre on a good year, or on an average year. Right now, beans are priced at $12.67 a bushel if they were to go and sell them straight off the field. That results in $545.03 an acre that would be produced. When you look at the county as a whole, according to the USDA National Ag Statistics Survey from 2022, the average corn yield was 186.6 bushels an acre, and the average soybean yield was 54.2 bushels an acre. So when you look at that farm ground, yes, Indiana is a fertile farm ground, but when you look at that section of DeKalb County, when you look at the actual soil itself, it might not be as productive as other areas of the county. So just looking at it from a soil perspective, that's kind of what I had found.
So that's a good question. What comes off of that $500 an acre in expenses?
It takes $600 an acre to put corn, to get corn, bushel of corn off.
Hey, Sandy, when you guys are talking, can you please talk into your microphones?
Oh, I'm sorry. It takes $600 an acre for corn, and he's getting $500.
You're saying it costs the farmer?
Yes, so he's in the hole by $100 already.
And again, these were just average figures,
Yes,
but
yes.
based upon the soil types I was looking at.
Yeah.
Again, like we said, farmers have a bunch of different practices. There could have been tiling that occurred that helped
Right.
with some of that and things like that. But just looking at the specific soils
Right.
themselves, that's what
Yeah.
I found.
Yeah.
No, no talking.
Yep. So, I mean, you have to look at everything.
You want
About, conservation of property values?
I'm kind of excited about seasonal grasses and things seeded in there. My farm's come off of about 20 years in CRP, and after it rested in seasonal grasses for that amount of time, the productivity really went up. And my ground's not that, it's about like this ground here. And plus I'm kind of a conservationist anyhow. I like ground nesting birds, and when you plant that kind of grass, you're going to get some wildlife back, and the fences aren't going to do anything to prohibit them. They're going to fly over those and feed out in the grain. So I kind of get excited about that many acres of CRP in DeKalb County. It's kind of like it used to be 20 years ago when everybody was putting their farms in CRP, and we had ringneck pheasant by the hundreds of thousands in the county.
Now, there's some portion of this overlay that's currently in a CRP, is that correct? And does that impact any of that? I don't know, whoever can answer that.
So I answered a little bit of that in the email that went to the Plan Commission. I'm not able to, there are no maps available unless you would request receipts of monies paid to these farmers to figure out how much acreage of their land is towards the CRP. There are no maps available that I have the ability to find. No one has the ability to. It's all protected for the Privacy Act, and Sandy can talk to this a little bit. But if any of these properties are in a CRP, they would no longer be allowed to be part of the CRP program because of the, and I don't have the email on me, because of the rules and regulations that they have, so.
You can't get more money, you can't get other funding if you're in CRP. CRP is strictly financial support from the government, so you can't draw money from another source. You can't make money from anywhere else. You can't farm it, you can't gain revenue from any other source.
Anyone else on that one?
Now, the whole property value issue is one that I struggle with. And I certainly understand a concern about what your home is worth, or if you want to sell it, and it's a legitimate question, a legitimate concern. But then also, as of right now, if the project goes through, the farmland, the participating property owners, that land is valued at $900 an acre for the next 25 or 30 years. And if the project doesn't go through, it's valued at whatever cash rent is, and probably less than $200 given the figures that Alicia's come up with. So is that an effect on property values? Arguably so. So there are definitely, I think, two sides to that equation. And just as an aside, I'm really disturbed about my greedy neighbor statements that have just been flying around. I think that's well, I think it's not productive, and certainly not a reasonable evaluation of the folks that want to participate in this project.
Go back to her comments in the CPR ground. A lot of that ground is, you're paid for like 60 foot on each side of a ditch in a waterway, so it protects the water from running.
Well, there's two forms.
Yeah, there's two forms, but a lot is what
Yeah.
I do is
Yeah.
with keep and which is, maybe they have to keep those programs in because of the ability to moist the ground and stuff, but to keep the creeks cleaned and everything. So you're gonna be limited how close you can put something on top of that, which I don't know if there's any waterways or anything through this.
We don't know if any of these properties are in CRP, unless any of you have knowledge. I, again, wasn't able to get any information from them on that, so.
Plus, there's short-term CRP and long-term.
Yeah.
What are the numbers on short-term, long-term?
Well, I mean, short-term is year to year or every 2 year, and it's usually filter strips along ditches. Which is not. And the long-term is large parcels of property where someone applies to put a large section of property into a CRP program, and that's usually a 10 to 15-year program.
So is there a minimum lease amount in time that the solar panel, the solar people, Sculpton or whoever, is it 10 years? Is it 15 years? You know, we've talked 40 years. So if you go into a CRP for 10 or 15 years.
It's a contract between the landowner and the government.
Exactly.
And then whoever has that agreement would have to break the agreement, or Sculpin would have to break the agreement if they took over the property. And then it would be between Sculpin and the government. That's up to them. That's a private agreement.
Yeah, I think we're kind of getting into like a hypothetical,
Yeah,
if there
that's-
is even any of these. I don't know where that ties into if they come or if they don't, property values
Yeah.
conversation, but I mean, it's good discussion, but I'm not sure it's.
Well, I just want to say, I also, like Mike, have a real concern that people who are adjacent to any solar projects don't have their property values harmed. I mean, that's just not fair, that they would lose any money on their properties because of this and not be compensated in one way or another. And I feel like that's kind of hypothetical right now. I heard a little bit about some different studies, but I haven't looked at them, so I don't know what's going to happen.
I also have concerns about the assumptions about property values. I think using averages is a little difficult because I don't know if this study was cited. One that I found, just looking, was a newer study from Lawrence Berkeley National Laboratory, indicates resale prices 1.5% less when averaged across 6 states. So maybe similar types of data. However, 3 of those states were California, Connecticut, and Massachusetts, which I would say are probably DeKalb County doesn't resemble those areas. And if you take those out, then the average of the 3 remaining states is negative 5% impact on property value. So I think when I got my MBA, I took a statistics class, and it always resonates with me and there was a class that calls How to Lie with Charts. And so, and not that anyone's lying about anything, but certainly if certain data is picked, you can get one result, and on the opposite side can pick other data and get a different result. I think fundamentally, there just aren't a lot of data points. I think we saw a lot of anecdotal evidence and a lot of very limited data points, I mean, down to the specific property in a specific area, which I think is very, very difficult to assume that the results from those limited data points over a limited period of time on a type of development, mass industrial solar, that is still very new. So I just think it's really hard to determine. And I don't think we should average. I don't know that we should average those increases in pure farmland with the maybe decreases in homesteads that would average out to zero. I think, like Suzanne had said, that we need to consider those individually, because if 7 large properties average out with 74 smaller properties to zero, then it's still not a zero result. There's still potential impact to property values. And I can say personally, from having bought several homesteads and several rural properties over the years, I wouldn't ever build anywhere next to solar. I wouldn't build within a couple miles of solar. And I don't know that drawing new people to the county and trying to grow as an employer, trying to bring people to the county to work and employ, I just don't think that that's going to help with the desirability of the county. And I don't think that, so I sort of have to go a little bit on anecdotal evidence as well, because the data just isn't there that's conclusive, I don't think.
Okay, Chris, I got a question. We're just looking at the to amend the overlay district. This is not a final vote on whether this moves forward. It moves forward, but we still get another vote whether we can turn it down, right?
The commissioners get a vote. So tonight, the planning commission will make a recommendation to the commissioners. The county commissioners will take your recommendation into account, but they have the ultimate approval of the overlay or denial of the overlay.
Yeah, so we're
But
just.
this doesn't improve the project.
It's not improving.
Nor is it approving a project.
So this could move this on, and we could deny it next time, but we'd get more information, right?
When you see the development plan.
Yeah, we see the development, right?
Yes and no. We get to a stage where we have to follow the development standards.
Yeah.
So if it meets the development standards, you can't say, I don't like it.
Yeah.
So your subjectability is gone at this step.
Oh, yeah, okay, that's
So
right.
it's not, we don't pay reasonable regard to these things as much in the next step. The next step, it's
Okay, that's right.
findings of fact.
Right.
And
Yeah.
jurisdictional findings. So does it meet checkbox A, B, C, D? Yes, no.
Right.
Yeah, okay. I was trying to get moving on.
I know what you're doing.
It's time for me to go home.
Bill's been up a long time.
That's right.
Well, unless there is more comment, let's move on to responsible development and growth. And when you look at this, you're looking at, responsible development and growth out here and for these 1,778 acres. Angie?
I think I covered it, thank you.
So, all sort of related, I'm going to throw out a few things that I've found out recently that have to do with growth and development and land use and some other things, I guess. Many, and I think it's closing in on most, manufacturing companies now are siting in places where they have alternative energy available. For instance, Metal Technologies is a good example. They have to buy credits in order to satisfy the requirements of one of their contracts in order for use of alternative energy. Whether that's a good policy or not, it's a fact that that's an important criteria in siting for industrial and manufacturing. Development also, and just in terms of what the requirements are going to be going forward in terms of energy. I had a meeting with I&M because I was curious as to how that worked with the project here and some of the projects that they're involved in. And believe me, from an I&M standpoint, it's got nothing to do with being green. It's a financial decision on their part, expanding their portfolio, just like any wise investor would. But a lot of the issue in terms of what they're doing in Indiana with 5 solar projects that they're involved in is the Rockport coal plant is going to be retired or decommissioned by 2028, which leaves them 2,300 megawatts short of peak power. That's Cook Nuclear handles most of their power needs on a day-to-day basis, but they rely on Rockport. The other part of Rockport's probably going to get converted to natural gas. But anyway, long story short, they're expecting to replace 50% of those 2,300 megawatts with solar power. So again, there's a development and growth component in that regard too. And one other thing that I did dig into a little bit, which speaks to property values a little bit, is that, oh, I'm sorry. Let's scoot this back. There. Is that this ground laying fallow, planted under the panels, of course, as it would be with some kind of grass, actually improves the soil condition and consequently the property values once the panels are pulled. So again, that has some component in property values. Just some, I'm big on facts. So.
Anyone else? Landry, I saw you feverishly typing away. And obviously Andrea will have the findings and to type into the minutes. And I think we can go through the jurisdictional findings.
Okay.
And then we can, the Plan Commission can do a motion for their.
Whoever wants to make a motion for favorable, unfavorable, or no recommendation.
Correct, right.
So the jurisdictional findings, these are proposed, just going through these for the record. Well,
the jurisdictional findings are not proposed, they are factual.
Sure, yes. We're just reading the facts into the record here.
Right.
Reading the facts into the record. Application completed and filed on September 15th, 2023.
Yes.
Legal notice published in the Star on October 6th, 2023, and publisher's affidavit given to staff.
It was.
Certificate of mailing notices sent and receipts given to staff.
Yes.
Report from the County Board of Health dated September 14th.
Yes.
This year, okay. Report from the County Highway Department dated September 12th, 2023.
Yes.
Report from the DeKalb County Soil and Water Conservation District dated August 31st, 2023.
Yes.
Report from the County Surveyor dated September 13th, 2023.
Yes.
Okay, with that all said, I would entertain a motion from the board.
I'll make a motion for favorable motion to send this to the commissioners.
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second for a favorable recommendation to be sent to the commissioners. We will do a roll call vote.
Jason Carnahan.
No.
Frank Pulver.
Yes.
Bill Van Wy,
Yes.
Mike Watson, Sandy Harrison,
Yes.
Jerry Yoder, Suzanne Davis,
No.
Angie Holt.
No.
Is that a 4-4?
That's even.
Sorry, so Andrew, that motion would be dead. Or
Right,
that,
because it was not passed.
Correct.
It was not passed.
So we'd have to take another motion for a
For- I mean,
unfavorable or no
right.
recommendation.
Correct.
Is there, oh, sorry, go ahead.
I would make a motion on the matter of petition 2328 as unfavorable submission to the commissioners.
And just so we're clear, when you vote yes, you're voting to agree with Angie's
Unfavorable.
motion. Angie and I were wondering earlier, how does that actually, what are we, when you vote yes or no, are you voting no to?
So there was a motion, was there a second?
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second for an unfavorable recommendation to the county commissioners. At the roll call vote, Andrea?
Jason Carnahan,
Yes.
Frank Pulver,
No.
Bill Van Wy,
No.
Mike Watson,
No.
Sandy Harrison,
No.
Jerry Yoder,
Yes.
Suzanne Davis,
Yes.
and Angie Holt.
Yes.
So, dead again.
Right. So if we all don't vote no for recommendation,
So
the last motion would someone be to?
the
do
last
it?
motion would be probably
Right.
for no recommendation, which might make sense, I guess, unless you guys can argue each other out of it, but.
try
You want deliberation, or do you want to
I mean, I
open it
think
for another
I'd
motion?
go for another, if it's someone's willing to make that motion.
Does anyone on the board want to offer up the final available motion?
If we don't come about with some majority here, then the commissioners can't move forward. Is that where we're at?
We'd be going through votes until you can get to a recommendation to the county commissioners, yes.
So, but we can vote on no recommendation,
Correct,
and then it can still go forward to them.
correct.
Yes. A lot of times, no recommendation happens when no.
that did not get to speak against the project. Sorry for the interruption.
There's, I would say, Chris, would you say frequently that no recommendation comes because everybody, majority of the board just sits, hey, thinks we have no recommendation? This is a little bit different because
Right.
half of the board is for it, half is against it.
Correct.
So a no recommendation vote is sort of a mutual compromise that maybe both sides could
Right.
potentially live with.
Right.
Probably the logical conclusion.
But that's just my thought process. You guys can
Right.
do what you want. You can,
So, since Bill is looking really tired,
I make a motion for no recommendation.
I'll second that, Frank.
We have a motion and a second for no recommendation from the planning commission to the county commissioners.
Jason Carnahan,
We're not going to get anywhere.
No.
Frank Pulver,
Yes.
Bill Van Wy,
No.
Mike Watson,
Yes.
Sandy Harrison,
No.
Jerry Yoder,
Yes.
Suzanne Davis,
Yes.
Angie Holt.
Yes.
Was that 5-3?
5-3. So we'll move forward with a no recommendation to the county commissioners on October 30th at 9 a.m. And I will ask that everyone try to exit the courthouse as quickly as possible so security can get out of here. We have a couple more things to go through, but then we'll get them. Thank you.
Appreciate you guys.
Please try to keep chit chat down. We still have some business to conduct, please.
I'll take it. Right, Andrew.
Hey.
Thank you. You can do what you want, yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of what I figured.
Talk to Susan.
I don't like that even more than I didn't like it when I came in.
Hey, guys. Sir, can you guys please exit? Shake hands after the meeting, please. For the Plan Commission that's still here, I think everyone is here. For November, we were going to bring forward a ETJ agreement revisions to Auburn, but that's not happening now due to some discrepancies where Garrett and Auburn will meet at County Road 17. So do we want, there's nothing else to bring. I was going to bring the fee schedule and the ETJ agreement. Do you guys want to have a meeting in November, or you want to try to wait till December to have a meeting with more substance?
Oh, you might as well wait until December.
Okay, I'm fine with that. I don't.
As long as we can maybe consider an agenda topic on the order of business, sort of how we go through the findings and all of that, as long as we can fit those both on a December agenda.
Oh, okay. What you and I discussed?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
I think that's doable. I think the ETJ agreement shouldn't take long. It's just revisions, cleaning up most of the language, actually, that will potentially end a discrepancy between overlapping properties, percentage of property, and just some cleanup language as well. So it shouldn't take long. We should have enough time for that as well. So if there is not any public hearings, would you be okay with trying to move that to a morning meeting?
Absolutely.
Versus
Yeah.
it being an evening meeting
Yeah.
in December? Okay.
Yeah.
I'll get with everybody. I'm going to pause, I think, November. We've all had a lot of information to go through this month, which I appreciate you guys doing all this. But it's been we've had 2 Plan Commission meetings, a Plat Committee meeting. We're going to have a Plat Committee in November, a BZA in November. So we're a lot of things going on. So it'd be nice to have a little bit of a breathing time. So I appreciate not having a meeting in November. We'll pick up in December.
Oh, that's my fun money.
Oh,
come on now.
So anything else for the good of the, I
Nope.
guess you've got more going on.
Yeah, there's more. Do we have any reports from cities, towns?
Waterloo canceled, and I have a rezone in Hamilton on Monday.
Gotcha.
No Garrett, Butler, any of those fun
No,
towns?
Butler's not till December. Garrett?
Garrett,
Yeah, Garrett.
still there.
Thank you.
Nice. Do we have any comments from the public in attendance? Slid through that one. Oh, sorry. This is not necessarily tied to the previous petition. This is a general.
Anybody in this room listening to all comments, you're supposed to represent, take into account, step down, fill this seat. Good job, fully did it. I think it's disgusting that you guys cut off the comments. I did have a statement.
Go ahead. Of course. See, you're,
I think you know what the difference was, Bill.
Yeah. Would you want to give us less time for each one to speak? And have more to speak? 2 minutes, 3 minutes?